China builds a skyscraper every few days. America builds one every few months. And if you think that gap is just about money, you're missing the real story. Because what's actually happening is two completely different philosophies of building colliding on the world stage, and one of them is winning by almost every measurable number. Let's start with the raw scale, because the numbers alone are hard to process. China currently has 3,596 buildings taller than 150 meters. Of those, over 1,300 exceed 200 meters, and 132 are classified as super tall, over 300 meters high. The United States, by comparison, has 905 buildings over 150 meters, with 246 exceeding 200 meters. That means China isn't just ahead. It has roughly 4 times as many tall buildings as the US, and more super tall towers than most of the rest of the world combined. To really understand why, you have to look at how China builds, not just how much. In 2015, a Chinese construction company called Broad Sustainable Building did something that seemed almost impossible. They erected a 57-story skyscraper called Mini Sky City in the city of Changsha in just 19 working days. That's an average of 3 floors per day. For context, a building of that size using traditional construction methods in the West would typically take a year or more. How did they pull it off? The building wasn't constructed brick by brick on site the way most skyscrapers are. Instead, engineers spent 4.5 months fabricating the entire structure in modular sections in a factory. Walls, plumbing, wiring, even windows, all pre-assembled off-site. When construction actually began on location, crews weren't building the tower from scratch. They were snapping pre-made modules together, like assembling a giant kit. The building was designed with 2,736 individual modules, and workers simply stacked and connected them, floor by floor. This modular method had another side effect nobody expected. It was dramatically cleaner. Because so much of the work happened off-site in a controlled factory environment, the project eliminated the need for roughly 15,000 concrete truck trips, trucks that would normally be driving to and from a construction site for months, kicking up dust and emissions across the city. Less mess, less pollution, and a construction site that looked more like an assembly line than a traditional job site. And Broad Sustainable Building didn't stop there. The same team went on to announce an even more ambitious project, Sky City, a planned 220-story tower designed to be 10 meters taller than the Burj Khalifa, meaning it would have become the tallest building on Earth. The most staggering part of the plan wasn't the height, it was the timeline. Using the same modular, prefabricated approach, the company claimed they could build the entire tower in just 7 months. That project never actually got built. Regulatory delays and safety concerns around a structure of that scale ultimately stalled it. But the ambition alone tells you everything about the mindset driving Chinese construction right now. Speed and scale aren't obstacles to work around. They're the entire point. So why does America build so differently? Part of it comes down to demand. China has been undergoing the largest and fastest urbanization movement in human history. Hundreds of millions of people have moved from rural areas into cities over the past 3 decades. And that migration created enormous, immediate pressure for housing, office space, and infrastructure. All at once, all urgently. Building fast wasn't a stylistic choice. It was a necessity driven by sheer population movement. The United States doesn't face that same pressure. Its urban population has grown gradually over generations, not in a single rapid wave. There's less urgent need to throw up dozens of towers a year, and the market simply doesn't demand it the way China's does. Then there's the regulatory side. American construction projects typically go through long permitting processes, environmental reviews, public consultations, and labor negotiations, steps that can take years before a single foundation is even poured. These processes exist for good reasons. Worker safety standards, environmental protections, and community input all matter. But they also mean American skyscrapers move through a system built for caution, not speed. China's system, particularly for large state-backed or state-approved projects, can move through approvals and construction phases with far less friction. When the government and a developer align on a project, the path from blueprint to finished tower can be extraordinarily fast, sometimes controversially so, with critics pointing to corners cut on labor conditions or long-term structural oversight in some cases. There's also a difference in what these buildings are actually for. Many of China's newest skyscrapers are part of massive, centrally planned urban development zones, entire districts built from nothing, designed to house and employ enormous populations quickly. American skyscrapers, by contrast, tend to be individually developed by private companies responding to specific market demand in specific cities, which naturally results in fewer, more selectively placed towers. So who's actually winning this race? By volume and speed, it's not close. China dominates. But volume isn't the only metric that matters. The United States still holds a disproportionate share of the most architecturally significant, culturally iconic buildings in the world. The Empire State Building, One World Trade Center, the Willis Tower, buildings recognized instantly worldwide, decades or even a century after construction. Quantity is China's strength. Cultural and architectural legacy has, historically, been America's. But that gap is closing too. Buildings like the Shanghai Tower have already won international recognition for architectural excellence, not just size, proving China isn't only building fast, it's increasingly building landmark-level design as well. What this really comes down to is two different answers to the same question. What is a skyscraper actually for? In China right now, the answer is largely about urgency, housing, and working a rapidly growing population as efficiently as possible. In America, the answer has remained more about permanence, building fewer towers, but ones designed to define a skyline for 100 years. Neither approach is objectively correct. One is optimized for speed and scale in a nation transforming faster than any in history. The other is optimized for caution, legacy, and long-term cultural weight. But if the last decade of skyline data tells us anything, it's that the era of American dominance in super tall construction is over, and it isn't coming back. Not because America forgot how to build tall, but because it was never trying to win that particular race in the first place. If you want to know more about incredible builds, click through my videos for more interesting ones.